When I was younger, we frequently visited my grandparents around holidays, even though we didn't live in the same town. My aunt lived 2 houses down from my grandparents. The lady in the house between was creepy. She was a large woman, over 6 feet. She wore logging chains around her neck, a dress, and work boots. The only time I remember seeing her outside was either in her garden in the back or when she was washing the outside of her house, scrubbing the actual building. She did this often. During these times, she would yell at us kids and call us all kinds of things. She would tell us the devil would be coming for us. The adults told us to leave her alone and to avoid her. We would run the distance between my aunts and my grandparents because when you passed by, she was watching out the windows. It was creepy, and we never went alone. One Halloween, one of the cousins dared us to trick or treat her house. I remember how scared I was, but I didn't want to be a chicken. Plus, I was going with the group. One of us rang the doorbell, and there was a lot of banging noises in the house, suddenly like doors slamming. When she answered the door, she had a severed head in her hands, and we all went screaming. The adults told us it was a Halloween prop, and we knew we shouldn't be bothering her and deserved to be scared. About a month later, my parents got a phone call that the lady had tried to kill my aunt while she was bringing in groceries and had my young cousin in her arms. The lady had one of them rope saws and had come up behind my aunt with it. She put it over her head and around her neck and proceeded to saw. My aunt naturally flipped and started kicking the door. My uncle came and beat the lady down with a fire poker. The police investigation revealed that the woman had been digging tunnels under her home, which were coming up under my aunt's, my grandparents', and another neighbor's house. She had been bringing the dirt up and putting it in the raised beds of the gardens. She also had a shrine of some sort underground, which had a few severed heads around it. My aunt survived BTW, but has a long scar across her neck. TLDR. While trick-or-treating, I was chased off by someone holding a real severed human head.
When I was a kid, I used to go and visit my uncle's lodge in the school holidays. It was on this huge property and backed onto the edge of bushland, so my brother and I always had a whole bunch of stuff to do to keep us occupied. I remember I was with my dog one day playing near an empty creek when he suddenly just took off into the trees. Everyone else had gone into town and my dad was asleep inside, so I was pretty much alone and decided to go after him. He was much quicker than I was, and I got lost pretty quickly. I was starting to get a bit upset because I couldn't find my dog, and I had no idea where I was. So I turned around from where I thought I came from and tried to run back and get my dad so he could help me find him. From what I remember, I tripped over a tree root or something and fell down this embankment. I must have hit my head on something because I woke up in the bottom of this small gully, not knowing how I got there. Everything was still a bit fuzzy. What actually woke me up was my dog licking my face. He was lying down right next to me. How he found me, I don't know, but I was really happy to see him. But then he started barking, but it was a bark I hadn't really heard him do before, and he was still lying flat on his stomach. That's the strange thing I remember about that part. A really strange lying down, grumble sort of bark. It made me scared a little bit. I turned to see what he was looking at, and there was a guy standing there. I remember he had this really faded cowboy hat thing on that had a big chunk missing on the side. "Hey kid, you had a pretty bad fall, but you should be all right. Let me get you back to your home," he said in this really, really deep voice. Then he walked over to me, picked me up, grabbed my hand, and we started walking back through the bush. The 2 things I remember from that walk were holding his gloves, which I thought was weird because it was the middle of summer and really hot at the time. The other one was my dog was walking too close to me. I was pretty much tripping the whole way back because he kept smacking into the side of my leg on the way back. The guy didn't say anything though. In fact, I don't actually remember him saying anything at all apart from the first time he spoke. I don't think we walked for that long because we reached the creek bed really quickly and I could hear my name being called out by Dad for dinner. I started to run up to the house and remembered I forget to thank the guy for getting me here, so I turned to yell, "Thanks, mister," but he was already gone. I just figured he was in a hurry or something. A few days later, I was in the supermarket with my mum. It was one of those small country town ones that kind of sell everything and everyone knows everyone else there. So I'm kind of just wandering around, and there's this photo up on the wall of this guy in a cowboy hat with a big chunk in the side missing. It was the guy who helped me in the woods. I wanted to thank him, or something for helping me before, so I asked the person working there who he is. Turns out he was the original owner of the store around 30 years ago, but died in a freak accident in the woods where my dog and I were. Apparently back in the day, he used to grow vegetables for the store himself in the middle of these woods. I don't know why, I guess the soil was more fertile or something. He went one day to see how they were growing when a really bad storm started up. Apparently he was trying to get back, but his dog, who always went with him, fell down a really steep embankment into a small gully, so this guy went after it. While he was down there, a branch broke off a tree and hit him, breaking his back. They didn't find him till weeks later. His dog was also found with him, by his side. It died of starvation. That's how I found out about Mr. Rogerson anyway.
Firstly, my wife is also a Redditor and has been severely traumatized by our recent experience. She does not like to talk about this, so to prevent anyone from sending her messages, this is a throwaway account. My wife and I buy our first house in February of 2010. We immediately fell in love with it as soon as we laid eyes on it. It had everything we wanted and plus a few extras. For the first month, everything was great. Lots of painting and decorating, getting it just the way we wanted. Then, weird things started to randomly happen. First, it was small things, like things upstairs being moved, put in completely different rooms than where they belonged. I chalked it up to my wife just forgetting to put things back where they belonged. The house also started to creak, pretty loud. This is a fairly new house, so I just figured it was probably settling, as most new houses tend to do. One day, the wife and I was preparing dinner in the kitchen. Our stairs sit right next to the kitchen entrance, so any noises upstairs were clearly audible into the kitchen. I turned off the water at the sink, and as soon as I did, we both heard a cough. We have no kids and no one was visiting. The windows were all shut, the television was not on. This sent the coldest chill down my spine and I could feel the blood running out of my face. I looked to my wife and she too had gone pale and had this look of absolute fear. Someone was in our house and they were upstairs. I quickly grabbed the sharpest knife I could find and my wife called the police. I walked to the bottom of the steps and stood silently and heard a loud pop creak, just like the ones I had always heard the house make. My hands were shaking and my wife was whispering to the 911 operator, telling them we think we may have a robber in our home. The police arrived in minutes. Thankfully, they had been patrolling nearby. The office walks slowly up the stairs, gun drawn. He calls out, "This is the police. Is anyone upstairs?" No response. I'm right behind him walking up the stairs. We look into the first bedroom and closet. Empty. No one in the half bath either. Last room is my office where I ha my PC. No one in the room or the closet. I felt the tension ease away and felt like a complete fool, making this officer search the house, only to find nothing. We turned to walk out of the room and right above us, creak. I just about shat bricks. In my office closet, there's an attic access. The officer pulls the steps down and again calls out, "Is anyone up there? This is the police." No response. He turns on his flashlight and peeks his head up. He finds a man in his 40s kneeling there in the attic, looking dead at him. Gun drawn, he tells the man to come out and put his hands behind his head. They arrest the man. He didn't say a word the whole time and would not look anyone in the eye. He was scruffy looking and had dirty clothes on. Me and my wife were freaking out. I don't think either of us have fully gotten over it. After questioning the man in the police station, we found out that he was a homeless man who found refuge in the house while it was still on the market. He said the doors were unlocked and so he stayed there. Apparently, a realtor must have forgotten to lock the door after showing someone the house. He said that when people would come to the house, he would hide in the second-floor attic. We bought the house, and this guy was living in it for a whole month without us even knowing. It really freaks me out still just thinking about it. TL Doggar. Don't shrug off all those bumps in the night. You could have a homeless man living in your attic.